Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up a really remarkable set of source materials.
hmm
It details a universal framework for consciousness, specifically Hanshi Deena Naidu's stages of soul evolution.
And it's fascinating because this isn't just about us, about human spiritual journeys.
Not at all. It actually maps the progression of consciousness across different realms.
Right.
So our mission today is to unpack the 5 core stages. You've got new, young, mature, teacher, and master.
And we're going to zero in on those first two.
Exactly, the new and young stages. We want to see how they define those early, very structured belief systems that most of humanity starts with.
And then trace that path forward.
Right. From those primal foundations all the way to the more comprehensive ancient wisdom traditions that resonate with a more evolved consciousness.
This framework, it's really an invaluable map for understanding what's happening right now, spiritually, on a global scale.
It's like a tool.
It is. Naidu has given us a tool to categorize and really understand this spiritual awakening that's transforming how we see ourselves and our relationship to the world. It explains why so many people feel, a bit discontented with the older structures.
Okay, so we have those 5 core categories: new, young, mature, teacher, and master. What's so amazing right off the bat is just the sheer scope of this.
It's huge.
It describes this evolution not as something, exclusive to humans, but as a universal flow.
That's right. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the source material explicitly states that this evolution of consciousness is not contained within the human kingdom,
So animals are part of this too.
actively part of this journey. Their consciousness is continuing to unfold, to ascend.
And the culmination of that unfolding, according to the sources, is their transition into the human experience.
Precisely. When a soul transitions from the animal kingdom into the human realm, it's born into what's called the new soul group. And this gives us essential context. Every human journey, including yours, starts by integrating that primal experience into a whole new, complex environment. Understanding that origin really maps the entire spiritual arc ahead.
Okay, let's unpack that first stage then, the new soul. Given that they've just transitioned from the animal realm, I imagine they're not starting with complex philosophy.
Not at all.
So what really defines this initial level of human consciousness? How does it affect their behavior?
Well, the new soul's experience is fundamentally defined by survival mechanisms.
Right, purely instinctual.
Exactly. They operate on an instinctual foundation, and that's what guides their behavior. But this isn't a failure. I mean, it's a necessary natural phase.
It's a starting point.
It's a starting point for foundational ego integration. They're trying to navigate the immense complexity of being human for the very first time.
So it makes sense then that their belief systems would mirror that primal survivalist need. We're talking about very basic, black and white morality that's designed to ensure survival and structure in what feels like a chaotic world.
Exactly. They are building their spiritual foundation completely from scratch.
Okay.
They're focusing on immediate needs, on concrete realities. So their belief systems are often just simple reflections of their environment. They need clarity. They need definite boundaries to feel safe.
Okay. That brings us logically to the second stage, young souls. So they've integrated those basic survival lessons,
Right.
but they haven't quite achieved full internal authority yet.
Yeah.
So where do they turn for meaning and for morality?
The young soul represents a really clear ascension. They are moving beyond pure instinct.
Okay.
However, they're still highly susceptible to fear-based beliefs.
Mm.
And they have this deep need for external validation and structure.
So they gravitate toward organized systems.
Organized and often dogma-driven religious systems, yes.
So we're talking about systems that are strongly centered around an external deity, someone who enforces clear, non-negotiable rules. Things like very literal, dualistic concepts of heaven and hell.
Absolutely. The young soul needs codified rules. They need clear consequences to guide their increasingly complex interactions. They're looking for an external authority to define morality for them.
Because it provides that sense of order.
It provides that crucial sense of order. I mean, they're starting to question the world, they're seeking deeper meaning, but they really need that foundational structure before they can start to trust their own internal guidance.
This feels like a really critical transition point. The new soul operates on primal necessity,
Yes?
while the young soul sees social complexity and seeks out an institution to manage it.
That's a great way to put it.
But what happens when that structure, the very thing that served them so well, starts to feel restrictive?
And that is where we see this spiritual shift playing out globally right now.
Huh.
Once a soul has mastered the rules,
Yeah.
once that young soul has matured, the rigid dogma just starts to feel inadequate for their more expansive awareness. They start looking for greater nuance.
And that triggers these huge shifts in spiritual practice.
That's the engine of change.
What's so fascinating here is how the source material illustrates the transformation within these existing structures, not just people abandoning them.
Precisely.
It seems like traditional belief systems are transforming to suit the current average soul level.
Yes, that's it, exactly. The material notes that traditional interpretations say of a system like Christianity, which deeply served new and young souls with its clear rules, well, that's now giving way to a more progressive, inclusive, and loving path.
So the focus is shifting.
It's shifting away from literal interpretations of, eternal punishment and more toward emphasizing individual spiritual experience and compassion.
Naidu uses this marvelous analogy that I think just perfectly captures this transition in spiritual capacity.
Oh, the math analogy.
It's a math analogy. Yeah, can you walk us through that?
Of course, it's a perfect metaphor for progressive learning. So think of it like this. Basic math. Your addition, subtraction, multiplication, division that's suited to the new minds.
The fundamentals.
The absolute fundamentals. They're just establishing the basics.
Okay.
Then you have the young minds. Having mastered the basics, they're now excited by the opportunity to learn higher math, like algebra or geometry or trigonometry.
And what's the consequence of mastering that higher level?
It creates a demand for more complexity.
Right.
That mastery drives an enthusiasm to tackle, say, university-level math calculus, theoretical physics, and beyond.
So that's why the transformation happened.
That's it. The young soul, now having access to greater knowledge and internal development, starts to seek a more nuanced understanding. Their consciousness is now capable of holding contradictions, subtleties.
Things that the basic rule-based systems just can't provide.
Exactly. They can't contain it anymore.
So if the young soul system is the algebra class of consciousness, what are the characteristics of the students moving into the graduate program? What defines the higher stages? Mature, teacher, and master souls.
This is where the consciousness shifts entirely from an external authority to internal realization. The mature soul is defined by a quest for genuine inner meaning, for emotional depth. They're focused on self-awareness, on healing. They start looking inward, away from any external deities.
They're searching for experiential truth, not just accepted dogma.
Exactly. Then you get to the teacher soul. Their primary motivation is sharing knowledge, guiding others on their path. They've mastered their own internal landscape enough to offer guidance. They really embody the wisdom they teach.
And then finally, the master.
Finally, the master soul. This represents the highest level of integration. We're talking full self-realization, operating from a state of non-dual consciousness and unconditional love. They see the interconnectedness of everything.
Their focus is purely collective.
Purely on collective elevation.
That profound shift away from external rules and dualistic thinking, it seems perfectly suited for a totally different type of spiritual framework.
It is.
So where do these highly evolved souls, mature, teacher, master, where do they find resonance?
And this brings us right to the shift toward ancient wisdom traditions. The source material states that Sanathan Dharma,
Which translates roughly as the eternal path.
the eternal path or cosmic law, yes, it suits these higher soul levels precisely because of its comprehensive and inclusive nature.
For our listeners who might not be as familiar with the term, how does Naidu's framework contrast Sanathan Dharma with those external dogma-driven systems we were talking about?
Well, unlike systems centered on a single external deity and very strict commandments, Sanathan Dharma offers a multiplicity of paths. It emphasizes personal realization, understanding cosmic laws.
So it's not built on fear.
Not at all. It's built on realization. The mature teacher and master souls are so attracted to it because it can handle the complexity of non-dualism, of reincarnation, of karmic balance.
The spiritual calculus, to go back to the analogy.
The spiritual calculus, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what their consciousness now demands. It offers a framework for self-authority and experiential growth.
It really sounds like the ultimate operating system upgrade that accommodates the soul's full computational capacity.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
And the sources frame this entire movement as something that is accelerating rapidly right now.
It is. The framework contextualizes our current era as the golden age. And this isn't just a metaphor. It's a period where humanity is being invited, or maybe even compelled, to release outdated patterns and embrace a more enlightened way of being.
And this acceleration means more souls are reaching those mature and teacher stages faster than ever.
Much faster.
So we've really taken the full deep dive journey here, from the fundamental survival instincts of the new soul,
Mm-hmm.
through the need for that external structured morality that defines the young soul, all the way to the internal mastery and comprehensive wisdom found in the mature, teacher, and master stages, which resonate with systems like Sanathan Dharma.
It shows us that spiritual evolution isn't some abstract idea. It's the engine driving the global change we see right now. When we see these big societal shifts, it's really the collective consciousness upgrading.
Right.
The source material highlights this by observing that, people are increasingly getting sick of killing and harming others. That's a massive collective turning point away from the primal dualistic conflicts of the lower soul stages.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to explore a bit further. Hanshi Deena Naidu asserts that this evolution of consciousness is accelerating during this golden age. So given that the mature, teacher, and master souls operate from a place of self-authority and collective well-being rather than external dogma, if the number of individuals reaching these higher stages continues to surge, what concrete, measurable impact will this profound spiritual self-realization have on global power dynamics and the very structures of governance in the next decade?